can't have no music. White man come up in this bitch, he got music. I want some Don Miller Show music, some drums from the Slave Master or something. Thank you so much, everybody. Welcome to the Don Miller Show. This is a new version of the Don Miller Show. We have found a new location closer to where we sleep at night. And D'Amica Page, I really want to accommodate D'Amica Page. I love you so much. You look so pretty today. D'Amica Page didn't want me to smoke a cigar. We moved to a smoking location as opposed to a non-smoking location, and then she said no smoking at this location. But again, thank you so much, everybody. So much to talk about. As you know, we started a series last week. How should Christians vote? Our guest, of course, who is back with us. He's really not a guest. He's a guest to many of you all, but he's a brother to me. He's a mentor to me. He is David Griffin. He is the attorney. He's a speaker. He's a lobbyist, a former secretary of the state lottery in Florida, and he is a friend of the show, but he's also one of my mentors that I actually listen to. I got about 3 I listen to, and about 33 I don't listen to at all. And he's joining us again, D'Amica Page. So this week we're going to hit quickly the second part of the series, How Should Christians Vote? But I want to talk about how is it that people are voting for people who are driving the transgender, not even LGBT as much, but this whole transgender conversation. As you know, the governor of Minnesota has become the nominee for Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz, and his movement, his agenda has been largely based on pushing a narrative and the initiative for the transgender movement, especially among young people.
Right.
So how is it that a Christian who attaches themselves to the Democratic Party in America finds it okay to vote for a guy whose life's work has been to push forth young people changing genders? I got a clip I want to play of it's about him supporting a 10-year-old who wanted to change their gender. And when I saw this is before Vice President Harris picked this dude. I was like, what a creep is this guy, right? This was a few years ago, before George Floyd and white guilt rose to the highest level of all time. Should have been higher anyway. But I watched this dude, and it was the weirdest conversation they were having, and he talked about his support for a 10-year-old child moving toward a gender change, and I was like, dang, who is this dude, and who is his family, and what's up with his kids? And now we realize this is a guy that's been tapped to be the Vice President of the United States of America, even with his radical, aggressive embracing of children moving toward transgenderism. Can we play that clip?
What brought you out here today? No, listen, my name is Noah Shorts. I use he, they pronouns. Like, I'm just really excited that we have, like, the first black woman that could be the president of the United States. And, you know, like, my wife, right, we're in a polyamorous relationship. The lover that my wife took is African-American. And, like, I've learned so much about the struggle that people of color go through as a result of...
Okay, that wasn't the right clip, but you can stop that. So here's a dude at the convention. He's in a polyamorous relationship. His wife took on a black lover. And he's learned about the black struggle because of his wife's black lover. Stay with me, guys. When I saw it, I had to play it a few times. So he's in a polyamorous relationship. Gonzo, can you at some point grab the definition of polyamorous? Because I want your young ass to read it. So this guy's at the convention, and he's a flailing, he is very zesty, right? And he's talking about he's there because he's in a polyamorous relationship. He's doing this interview, quite frankly, with the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation. Mm-hmm. But he's talking about his wife taking on a black lover, male, which brought him to look closely at the struggles of black people. What is polyamorous?
The practice of having
multiple intimate relationships, whether sexual or just romantic, with the full knowledge and consent of all parties involved.
Okay, so he kind of homosexual, and his wife let him go get a BBC, but not British Broadcasting. You follow me? So he had been attached to, he's been on the BBC before.
But his wife has a relationship.
But his wife is dating a black guy, and he said he's learned the struggles of black people by his wife's black boyfriend. And he's at the Democratic convention because he's a giant fan of Tim Walz. What are we doing?
I have no idea what we're doing. The clip that you wanted to play of Tim Walz, you got it now? Okay.
There's about 150,000 of our children identified in our schools, in our public schools, trans students. And as a teacher, my number one responsibility in the classroom was the safety, security, and belongingness of every single child in that classroom. And as this child, for those who have concern, and I will not minimize people's concerns who are concerned that this is going to make an unsafe situation, whatever, I ask you that in many cases, these are children my son's age, a fourth grader, a 10-year-old, who just wants to go to the bathroom, and their identity is they are male or female, and they just go in that bathroom and use it. And when I think through this, when I say this as a teacher, there's about 150,000 of our children identified in our schools, in our public schools, trans students. And as a teacher, my number one responsibility in the classroom was the safety, security, and belongingness of every single child in that classroom. And as this child,
Let's stop it here. David, this is the vice presidential nominee. He is concerned about a 10-year-old kid being able to be a male or a female outside of their biological gender. And he has created legislative action to make them comfortable. One of the things is putting tampons in the boys' bathroom for the little bulldagger girls to go to the boys' bathroom and feel comfortable in the boys' bathroom. What person of color has ever engaged in this type of ridiculousness? Go ahead.
Never. It baffles me. It baffles me that any Christian, black or white, think it's okay to go along with any policies that promote this type of engagement. You know, that a 9-year-old, 10-year-old can tell you what their gender is. What happened to train up a child? So the child, so as the adult, we're not training up our
train up a child? What is that?
That's scripture. That's
that's got something to do with the Bible?
Yeah, the people who call themselves Christians, the people who call the people who call themselves Christians,
right.
That manual, that constitution that we're supposed to follow, that's what we're supposed to do. So we're supposed to train up the child. So now he's saying, listen, the Christians that support this, they're saying, okay, you know what? We're not going to train up the children. The children are going to tell us what they're going to do.
Well,
the children are going to tell us who they are.
Worse than that, we're saying that the government is going to train up our kids. That
Even
the
worse.
elected officials are going to train up our kids. You know, if we're going to, sticking with the theme of the Bible talks about in the last days that people are going to start listening to doctrines of demons. There is no sane in
Did you say doctrines?
Doctrines of demons.
And this is definitely
Is that in the Bible?
demonic
It's absolutely
doctrine.
in the Bible. This is a demonic doctrine. This is spiritual warfare. I don't believe there's a 10-year-old adult. Look, back up. There's an adult who would want to go back and be allowed to make permanent, life-changing decisions at the age of 10 and have an adult affirm them and say, go on and make this change and become an adult.
And remember, he said fourth graders. So we're talking about
Those are 9-year-olds.
We're talking about 9-year-olds,
9.
10-year-olds. That's the age. That's the age range that we're talking about. Making these types of decisions and telling the adults, you know, how they're going to engage in life.
So
It's
even to
ridiculous.
support this, there's a level of perversion just supporting it.
At some point, to me, you got to ask yourself why. And other than that, it's
Why would a grown-ass
why?
daddy?
Absolutely.
Why would a grown daddy think this is okay unless he was engaged in some type of perversion himself.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the Bible says, how can two walk together unless they agree? So if you're walking on that same path, if you're coming into agreement with that kind of foolishness, perversion,
Yeah,
then
it's okay to say that. You ain't gonna lose your job.
Right? Yeah.
But we've always had perversion, right? Since the beginning of time, there's been perversion.
You're right.
Never like this, where you are actively attacking the children. Not in this country. Adults have always done their thing. We've always had vices and things that we get into. Never have we visited upon the children.
And
So we
it
gotta
hasn't
say
been on
what's
public
going on.
display like this. Like it's now we've put it on this platform publicly for everybody to see, because most of the things that did happen to children was done undercover, in the privacy of your own home or whatever. You was abusing your kids and doing things you wasn't supposed to. But now it's been put up on public display.
It's being celebrated.
Right.
It is being celebrated.
And then you have Christians, it's on public display, and you have people who call themselves Christians.
Yeah, I think you need to say call themselves.
Call themselves Christians, trans Christians, coming along aside of them and championing this type of ridiculousness.
But again, it's amazing to me because you've always had perversion and you always had perverts.
Exactly.
Right? And even in the black church, David, you grew up in the black church. I grew up in the black church. It was a bunch of perverts even in the black church. One of the greatest perverts of all time in the black church was James Cleveland, a renowned gospel singer who had a history of perversion and that type of activity, right? It was public record.
Yep.
And so now you have the masses engaging in thumbs up to this type of behavior.
Right.
So my concern is, have black Christians lost their way? Have they been co-opted into something that it was there? We know it was there. It was a gigantic look away, but now we're voting for people. And it's amazing to me. I know a pastor who I don't want to hear anything from him anymore, who did a 7-minute rant about how great Tim Walz was. And I text this dude, and I'm going to read the text. And I text this pastor. He's got a bunch of people over there. They're all unlearned and lost biblically. I say, Pastor, I saw your sermon this weekend, and you spent 6 or 7 minutes talking about Tim Walz from Minnesota. What do you know about him? He says, she picked him. He's got to be okay. And I didn't respond to
Are
it.
you serious?
This is what confuses me.
Pastor Mike Collins.
This is what confuses me.
She picked him. He's got to be okay.
It's one thing to be ignorant. But to me, it's a whole nother level when you just decide you're going to partner with ignorance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to be with you. I want to be with you, okay?
Like that. To me, that's just a whole nother level when you just decide that you're just going to go into a covenant. You're going to be in a relationship with ignorance. That means you're not open
Pastor
to...
Mike Collins, Thessalonians Baptist Church.
You're not open to wanting to know anything.
She picked him. He's got to be
But let's be clear
okay.
on something. The people that are making these decisions, that have decided this is the direction that we want to take this country, are
Absolutely.
not ignorant.
No, they're
They're
not.
doing ignorant things.
It's the people that are
They're
following
doing ignorant things,
Absolutely.
the people that are following them, and that is what is hard,
Right.
I guess, to wrap my head around.
Yeah, that's the point right there.
But you asked an interesting question about the black church and have they lost their way. Here's what I wonder though. What we do know, and this may not be exclusive to black communities, but we do know that a lot of times things happen in your family. You got Uncle, Pete.
Cleotis.
Cleotis. He doing little something, and that's because those are the people that my grandmother would say, no, you're not going over his house.
Right.
They knew who the perverts were, and they did their best to protect us from them. But then there were some family members that would allow. They knew he was a pervert, and they would allow their kids to be around them. And then abuse the kids that did say something about it. They would admonish them or punish them or what have you, because you don't want to air out your dirty laundry. You want to keep everything on the hush hush. So my thought is it those families who knew perversion was going on in their families, and they did everything they could to keep it on the low and keep it hushed. Mm-hmm. And now that these things are public, and now that these things are being celebrated, those are the families that feel okay and confident to come alongside of this level of perversion
You
and
know,
think it's okay.
when it gets in the political discourse to the level that it's at, David, I'm watching the celebration of this administration, this new administration, this coup. I call them the coup team because they cooled Joe Biden. I don't care what they say, David. That's a coup. Yep. That is a total threat to democracy. When you take out a sitting president without the people being able to vote or be in part of this, that's a coup, right? I'm looking at this, and then you replace Joe Biden with what has been a meme for many years. There were people who looked like us who said, how the heck did she get that job? And then she doubles down and gets the worst. This guy wasn't even on the radar as a candidate. Anybody tell me who knew the name of Tim Walz before she picked him? And as an American citizen and American people, we got to be careful with this. I'm hearing people, oh yeah, Tim Walz, he's good. You don't know anything about this guy. I'm in politics every day, right guys?
That's right.
I know this guy as one thing, the clown who didn't call the National Guard when BLM was running a city. That's the only thing I knew about it. I didn't know he never bought a house, he didn't live in a house, he paid rent, and I didn't know he was a school teacher and a fake-ass high school coach who said he won a championship, but he was really a volunteer assistant. I didn't know he lied about his rank and never went to Afghanistan. I didn't know anything about him, right? I just knew he was a guy who didn't run a state well, right? And now all of a sudden, he's a candidate for vice president. And you could put their heads together, right together, his head and her head, and come up with a half a brain. I'm concerned as an American citizen, what the hell is going on, and how is this okay? And how is the Democratic Party, thousands of people in Chicago, people have spent $1.5 million to be in those skyboxes. Not the people down on the floor, but them people in them skyboxes in the United Center on the west side of Chicago, $1.5 million, $2 million. How are they saying yay when you were the same people, Mike, my buddy, who were laughing at her 3 years ago, and now you told me, oh, my CEO is taking us to Chicago to cheer on. Mike, you said she was a joke. And many of us said she was a joke. And this is very uncomfortable for me because now she's amazing. And then she picks the lowest level piece of shit, candidate. Damn, I got to get my words right. Who's got a perversion in his life. Talked about, I used to bring the gay kids over, and because I wanted to mentor them, they shouldn't be cast. Look, I ain't never bringing 17 gay kids over my house. I don't care what the situation is, right? First of all, Quetta Jean Johnson from the Johnson family, ridiculous behavior. I ain't gonna have that, right? Y'all gonna be in the garage. The fact is, how is this okay? And who are these pastors? T.D. Jakes and many of these guys who sit over these churches with many people who have not come to the microphones and said this platform of engaging at this level with children and pushing this transgender conversation is inappropriate. Where are they? Or are they afraid, David?
Well, I don't know if it's fear. I don't know if it's because they're a part of all this. They clearly are the ones that should be speaking up and are not. This problem is, to me, in my mind, has so many layers. Number one, we don't really know where anything is. We don't have a media that's reporting accurately on anything. We don't know what the numbers of support are. We don't know, we don't know what we don't know in terms of how this is really impacting, the voters out there. The polls aren't truthful. They're trying to say that Kamala's ahead or neck and neck and all that. No one believes that, but what are the real numbers?
It's interesting because I was watching a poll today, Gonzo, and you pay attention to the numbers. Now all of a sudden, it's neck and neck again. It's come back down. Right. I think they're saying, we played the game enough. We know what's going to happen after the convention. The truth is going to come out. She's got to get to a microphone at some point real soon.
It's tonight, right?
Tonight.
Everything's tonight.
The average speech for a nominee historically has been 159 minutes to 117. What is she going to say to American people in an hour and 17 minutes, an hour and 12 minutes, 59 minutes, and not talk about policy? And if you're listening to this tonight and she talks that long and don't talk about policy, then you are a fool and you should get whatever you got coming. Because in an hour, if you can't have something about policy in 1 hour, what do you say, D'Amica? What do you say?
Well, they haven't, from what I have not listened to any of these speeches at the DNC. I've only heard clips, so that's my disclaimer. However, what I've been hearing is that no one is talking about policy. Everyone is talking about, Donald Trump hit the person.
Hey, this has been a great commercial for Donald Trump. This was a week-long commercial.
That's been the only conversation. So the whole goal is to make this about personality politics and not policy. So because if you start talking about policy, then where do they go from there? What policies have they been successful at? Since she's been there.
I want to play a clip. They were interviewing people on the street in Chicago, and it was crazy because they're on the south side of Chicago, the west side of Chicago. Over 100 and some people have been interviewed. Just kind of man on the street, random, hey, who are you with interviews. Play a clip, please.
What brought you out here today? No, listen. My name is Noah Schwartz. I use he/they pronouns like.
No, the man on the street.
I think isn't it Don Lemon?
Yeah, no, Don Lemon had.
I don't think he's saying that one.
I think.
You up for a quick interview?
Yes. Sure. Yes.
What's your favorite policy of Kamala's?
That's a hard one.
What's your favorite policy of Kamala's?
Her being president.
That's your favorite policy position?
Oh, yeah.
How so?
Because it covers everything that she defends.
I'm really excited for her to restore reproductive rights across America.
How do you think she'll go about doing that?
I don't know.
What a fun question. I don't know. I'm picking and choosing. I mean, I really like most of them.
So you have to look at it broadly, right? It's about what she stands for right now.
What's your favorite of Kamala's policies?
I'm trying to think. Well, actually, more of like, what else comes in?
All of her policies, everything from I'm non-binary, and so all of the policies for basic human rights to have our own bodies and do with them as we please,
Her willingness to move forward on affordable health care.
How do you think she'll do that as president?
I think she'll work to motivate the legislature to vote in favor of it.
As her as a person, just tops out any policy. I really admire her.
Great, thank you both so much. Be up for a quick interview?
Hey, now think about this, right? Not one of those people
know anything about policy.
Set up another clip, okay? Because not one of those people. And this whole non-binary, and y'all probably think I'm an anti-homosexual. I'm not, but I don't get it, okay? The first thing he led was, I'm non-binary, that's why I support. What is non-binary? Gonzo, you know what non-binary is? You the educated person in the room. What, you know what it is? Anybody know?
Gonzo.
Gonzo, what's non-binary?
He's very familiar.
I wouldn't say I'm very familiar, but you essentially don't identify with
male or female.
Any gender. So for me,
there's only two genders.
That's what I believe.
So
too.
you don't identify with either male or female.
That's called
confusion.
That's confusion. So let's say I'm confusion.
And who's the author of confusion?
Oh,
definitely
Satan.
not God.
Satan wrote that book. That's a Satan book.
Yeah, Satan also refers to himself as them and they.
You're right.
That's right.
Yeah, legions.
Right.
We are many.
Wow.
But the Christians who read their Bibles, they don't. But you don't recognize
Christian
it when
reading
you
their
see
Bible.
it. You read it, but you don't recognize it when you see it and when you hear it.
Because they ain't reading it.
That's
We
exactly
talked about
right.
biblically illiteracy. How long ago?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was 10 years maybe. The fact is, these people are at this convention, and they're excited.
Nobody knows anything about
and they've
policy.
attached themselves to a candidate. Look, I'm not a supporter of Barack Obama. But that dude, when he was nominated, killed it. He hit you with policy every week. It was like every week there was a different policy. Am I right?
You're right.
Every week he had 3-4 speeches, not statements, not press conference, but speeches. And they ran long. And he was like, bam, 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 right? We haven't heard from her. And how is it okay? Because I believe that even if this was a white male Democrat, we would have been waiting to hear something.
Well, I think that's the big issue, is that she hasn't said anything, and yet there's still people who are excited about it.
But she's
excited
gotten,
to have her as
but
president.
she's gotten to where she is by not saying anything.
Huh?
That's how she's gotten where she is, by not saying anything.
Yeah, I think tonight's going to be interesting. Of course, you got the giant teleprompter. You're going to have the 20 by 20 teleprompter in front of her. It's a glass screen that the people can see her face, but not the words. And she has historically had challenges with teleprompters, Gonzo. And the question is, will she stay focused or will she lose her spot? Because the problem is, if she loses her spot, it's going to be a doo-doo show. And this is what the concern is. She could crash and burn like Biden did in the debate. And if that happens...
And you got to wonder what's next. Because I think there's a shoe to drop.
Absolutely.
And it hasn't dropped yet.
It hasn't dropped yet. You and I have been talking about that for a minute.
Yes, we have.
There's a shoe to drop. Gonzo, how long ago did you and I talk about this? I am not convinced she's the person.
What world leader can you see her going and standing in front of?
None.
Name one.
Nah, we've
I don't know
that.
Herself in the mirror.
Right. And the
Maybe.
problem is, and I watched Bill Clinton last night, and that was a sad, and he talked about this may be the last time you guys see me in this type of scenario, and his hands were trembling, and he looked unwell. And it brought back the conversation how rapidly we have moved toward a gerontocracy, a nation controlled by old people. And so you look at Bill, who's almost 80, and you look at Pelosi, who's over 80, and Maxine Waters is almost 85, and they just keep bringing these old Jesse. I don't even know why they put Reverend Jackson on the stage. That was embarrassing. And you look at the fact that they're toting these old people out because the attachment to many Americans is still to yesteryear. We are not there anymore. The frightening part of this is I would take an older person that could articulate an eloquent message over this lady. This lady has no idea what she's doing. We watch Mitch McConnell have a stroke on national TV. Mm-hmm. She has no idea what she's doing. A 50% Mitch McConnell, a 75% Joe Biden. Any of these people who understand international diplomacy and policy is better than this lady at 60 who is maybe extremely more cognitive with them than them. Maybe. Okay? But she doesn't appear well. And then you go get this guy. I don't know what this Tim Walz thing is about, right? This Tim Walz thing is scary to me because he's a coach and a husband and a teacher, but he engages heavily with this alternative lifestyle conversation more than any man I know. I don't know who are you voting for? Is this a low testosterone movement?
Well, they referred to him as the new 21st century male, the new 21st century masculinity. So I heard Who they're referring to Tim Walz, but
but who said that?
several media outlets, not one, several media outlets. So that so evidently this is a new talking point, coming out of this DNC, that this is a new 21st century masculinity, the new 21st century man. It should be really frightening to people that's what we want to identify men as today. It's very disturbing. And when I say several, I'm not talking about one outlet, not two outlets. Several outlets use this talking point. Remember when she first came out, how all of the news outlets kept referring to Donald Trump as, when she came out, he's going to be racist, he's going to be sexist or something like that. And all of them had the same talking point. So this was the same thing. Mm-hmm. This new 21st century masculinity, this was one of those talking points.
You know what's interesting is, speaking of that, the position that many of these people took. Look, I'm a show for the people. I'm not a show for black people or white people. I'm a show for the people. But I have to say, I really wish my people who look like me, black people, would engage a little more, because we need it the most. And if that offends you, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you, too bad, okay? Because we need it the most. And when I see people like Steve Harvey, who is the most coontastic idiot that ever made $1 million that I can recall, outside of somebody with a basketball or football, he's a clown. And now you embrace these type of people. These are the people you want to take the message back to black Americans. Hey, Steve, we got something for you. Get over here. Go take this message back. Steve's a clown. Then you got Ricky, that dude. He's a clown. Then they had Lil John at the Democratic convention, walking up and down the steps. Lil John, if you a grown-ass man and they still call you Lil, that's a problem in itself. I'm concerned that people don't see what's coming down the pipes. But I'm still of the mindset that after tonight, in the next 4 or 5 days, David, this thing could change.
Yeah, I agree. And I think something is going to change. I'm going to be interested to hear her speech. I'll probably I won't listen to it live. I don't think I can take it.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I want to fast forward.
Yeah, this is too bizarre. This whole situation, this whole setup, and the fact that she's even in the position that she's in to be even considered as a candidate for president of the United States it's about as bizarre a thing that I've seen in my lifetime.
Okay, let's just talk quickly, Dave. You and I. Let's go on the record quietly, off the record. You and I both have been political for a long time. Up close and personal, political.
Correct.
I never in my life thought that I would see, and I've been with African American Democrats, Republicans alike, and every one of them, at least, no matter how old they were, they had the ability to at least present a conversation that would make you think they knew what they were talking about. Correct?
Yes.
I go back to Corrine Brown and Sheila Jackson Lee, who just passed away, who became amazing at her death when everybody hated her in her life, but that's a whole nother conversation. Jim Clyburn on our side, to a lot of the Republicans who people thought were clowns as well. But at least you could sit down with them at a steak dinner, and they could, for 1 hour, hour and a half, convince you that they're the candidate for you to donate to. This lady doesn't even not have that, David.
This is different. This is different than it's ever been. Something is off. Something is just doesn't add up. Even for a party to get behind her, they see what we see, whether they acknowledge it or not. They see what we see, and they've been talking about it for the past 3 years, or almost 4 since she's been in office. I don't know what the play is, though. Somebody knows what it is.
It's definitely a play. You know, it goes back. There was a congressman who represented in the state, in the United States Congress from Detroit. There's a district that has been since 1930s represented by one family, the Dingles. Congressman Dingle, his son, who represented that district for almost 60 or maybe 60 years, and then the son's new wife, who came on after him. And I never saw any of them as overly intelligent, but they could get you for an hour and a half and make you donate, right? What's your cause? What's important to you? Look you in the eye. Hey, what's important to you? Education, the economy, business, entrepreneurship. What's important to you? I'm looking at this lady. She can't even do that. So what's amazing to me that I'm watching these old head African American Democrats who had to do that. Maxine Waters had to coon and do that. Okay, let's be clear. I'm telling you right now, Maxine had to do it. They all had to do it. And she just shows up without any dialogue, without knowing the issues, and bam, she's a one. She don't know the issues. I am looking forward to these debates if they happen. Because if you thought Joe Biden, in his lack of cognitive mindset, was bad in a debate, you stick her in a debate, and the only thing that's going to come out of that is Donald Trump's anti-woman and a racist. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. If Joe Biden at 60% is smarter than this lady, would y'all agree?
Well, he has different issues.
But again, I agree. But he could engage.
For moments.
At 60%.
You mean now or in the past?
No, at 60%.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
She's
yes.
100% allegedly, right? Take away the Jack Daniels.
I've been around a lot of politicians in Ohio, started in Ohio, as you know, came down here to Florida.
Right.
I've never seen anything like this.
It's frightening, and
Ever.
I'm amazed.
From someone that has reached her level.
Yes. How? How do you get there? But it's amazing, and I'm so happy.
Well, it's why, to me.
I'm so, right,
it's
that's
why.
what it is, it's why. I'm so happy when I watch the American people. You got any more of those man on the street clips? When you watch the American people, Gonzo, who are looking at this saying, nope, you're not going to get me. And I think they thought they could go to places like Chicago for the convention and walk down the street and grab black folk and black. This is how detached. Mick, how long we've been talking about how they don't know black people for real, right? Mm-hmm. This is how detached the Democratic Party, these elite educated black people, have become from the common man. You grew up in Cleveland. The Stokes knew everybody. The Stokes knew the man with the barbecue joint, okay, on Euclid, right? Am I right?
That's right.
They knew the pastor around the corner, right? They knew everybody. That one of my favorite city council members in America was a guy from Cleveland who was a G. Huh? You know what I'm talking about?
Who?
He was the city councilman from Cleveland who cussed everybody out.
Well, he wasn't born in Cleveland.
But he's from Mississippi. He was from Mississippi. We all from Mississippi,
yes, absolutely.
Right?
I know.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay?
How could I not?
He cussed everybody out. But when you look at this, I'm just glad to see that there are some people who are seeing through this. Now, they don't know, as we don't know, what's going on, but we got to really pay close attention. So I want everybody to, this is what I want y'all to do for us tonight. Get a notepad if you're going to watch the speech. Do something different. Let's get a notepad and write down things that jump out to you in this speech tonight. And when we come back to the Don Miller Show, I want you to give us a holler, send us a message. You can email Don at the Don Miller Show. Go to the Instagram, go to the Facebook page. Just put what your thoughts are, D'Amica page. You can follow David. And if something jumps out to you that makes you say, wow, this is my candidate, let us know. Because we want to say wow, too. We actually do. And I want to say wow without monkey shoulder or anything else in my, you know what I mean? Because this is not okay, David. I miss my friend Stephanie Tubbs Jones, who was probably one of the straightest shooters, who I think would have been pushing back. And gone are those people. And it's amazing how quickly Sheila Jackson Lee went home to Jesus because she had already raised her hand with questions.
Mm-hmm.
You caught that?
Yep.
And
I
all of a
did.
sudden, she's dead now. She had already said, "Oh, I'm from California. I got some questions." And she was pushing back early on, remember?
Yes.
Attorney General. There was Sheila Jackson Lee said, "Hey, let me ask you a question over here." She represented Oakland, California. She represented the last, the least, the lost, and the lonely. I was never a fan of hers, but I was a fan of her ability to call BS when she saw it. And so all of a sudden, she's gone. Oh, she's sick one week and she's gone the next. My concern is that if we stand by and not continue this dialogue, we are part of the problem and not the solution. Go ahead.
No, we talked about just politics not being the same anymore. You sent me that clip with Kennedy, and he made mention that if his people were alive, his father, his brother, he mentioned a couple of people, if they were alive today, that they would have a problem with the Democratic Party as it is today, just because they have, in his words, abandoned so many things that they used to stand for. We're not even looking at politics in terms of politicians that are promoting any particular policies that they think will be in the best interest of the people. Granted, they may, the different parties may have different ideas on what policies would work, but at least we did hear some policy.
No.
Now we hear nothing. We hear nothing from this particular platform. It's all about personality.
If I didn't know any better, I would think that a significant amount of the Democratic Party were on the take. If I didn't know any better, ixnay. But how is everybody so 100% behind this candidate? 6 months ago, they weren't. I was engaging with these people 6 months ago, D'Amica, and they were not. I was talking to congressmen 6 months ago that thought that she was the problem and the reason why they hadn't gotten rid of him in the beginning, David, yes or no?
Yep.
Because
We had a
her.
conversation
I
about it.
talked to a lifelong politician, United States congressperson, 30 plus years, who said to me they would have got rid of Joe already, but they thought she was more frightening. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
You heard that? Gonzo, have you
Yes.
heard that? But all of a sudden, this person that everybody was nervous about is getting the rah-rah, the thumbs up. I talked to a delegate 6 months ago, longtime delegate, who said, man, if we could have got rid of Joe and placed so-and-so in there, but the problem is they were concerned she was going to have to take the, and it was like, we don't want her. These are Democrats. And I know this delegate was telling the truth because he was drunk. I bought him about 4 shots of monkey shoulder. And the point is, Gonzo was there. Gonzo didn't know he was a delegate, though. How are we here now? We are in a crisis in this country. We have a war over here and over there and around there. Military-industrial complex is ramping up. Your Social Security is going to Ukraine. Please know that's where your Social Security going, right?
Yep.
We have the Chinese looking at us with the side eye and the Russians looking at us with the side eye. Go ahead.
No, and it's so crazy because people are so caught up in personality and whatever the narrative is, and that they're not paying attention to what the policies that are being pushed right now. There are policies right now that are in play that's going to change the Medicare system for 2025 like nobody's
Because they
business.
don't care.
You know, so many seniors are going to pay a price next year in 2025 because of some of the things
You
that
just
are
like me and David.
Yeah.
We seniors.
Are y'all out? Are you about to turn 65?
No, Dave,
No, I'm not touching.
But so many seniors are going to suffer in 2025 because of the changes that are already in play now that will become active in 2025. And those same people that are going to suffer are the ones that's voting for the people who are implementing it. That's how disillusioned people are from how important policy is over personality.
Well, what has happened? We've started to redefine most things in life. Redefine
Everything,
what a woman is.
Yeah.
Redefine what a man is. Redefine what a family is. Redefine. And just going down the list. And then after you redefine everything, then you distract everyone. Mm-hmm. And you get them off looking at something over here while you are manipulating and changing and turning everything else on its ear. And people don't even know enough. I should be concerned right now about this.
Right.
You know? And so by the time they do wake up, which is history. You go back and look at history, and that's the value of history, not in layman, but saying, how did it happen? And this has happened
Learning
before.
from it. Yeah.
This has happened before in other civilizations.
Right.
So if you go back, and by the time the people wake up, it's already maybe too late.
And you know, I'm going to just tell y'all, I love doing a show with smart people, man. Dave, I appreciate you. I've been doing a show with you for 20 years.
I'm not giving you no
I've been doing a show for you for 20 years. I've been with D'Amica Page 20 damn years almost. You know, it's amazing when you have these type of conversations. It goes back to just basic if you're paying attention. I think the average person is not paying attention. So let's go back to Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy is the son of a guy who was murdered in the basement of a hotel in 1968. His dad was running for president. It was a very tumultuous time in America. We were engaged in Israel and the Palestinian significant struggle, as you recall, for those who remember. He had lost his uncle already to gunshot, who was the president of the United States. His dad was running for president, and he was murdered. At that time, candidates didn't have Secret Service protection. He was just a candidate running for president. And a guy by the name of Sirhan Sirhan, a Palestinian, Jordanian POS, murdered Robert Kennedy. Remember that? He's still in jail. Robert Kennedy jumps into this race, and you didn't have to agree with everything he said, but this is America, right, guys?
Right.
And Robert Kennedy had some really good points. And had there been a primary on the Democratic side, I think Robert Kennedy would have gotten legs. David, you think so?
I do think so.
You think so, D'Amica?
As evidenced by the fact they got him out.
Yeah. You think so?
Yeah.
But they got him out. So Robert Kennedy got a microphone put in his face yesterday, and I want you to hear what he said.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't be here right now. The DNC is in Chicago talking about their commitment to voting rights. And meanwhile, they're spending, tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars to keep me off the ballot. I was raised in the Democratic Party. My father, Robert Kennedy, my uncle John Kennedy, at a time when the primary thrust of the Democratic Party in that era was to make sure that every American could vote, where people in our country were being denied the right to vote, and that every American could vote for the person they wanted. There's 1 million people in this country who signed petitions trying to get me on the ballot. 145,000 at least people here in New York State who say they want to see me on the ballot. Why is the...
Let's stop it right there. Over 1 million people signed a petition to get this guy on the ballot. Mm-hmm. Well over 100,000 in New York State wanted him on the ballot, right? The Democrats spent millions of dollars
to keep him
off the ballot.
But Donald Trump is the threat to democracy.
Right.
Huh? Right? Had there been a primary, I want people to listen to me on this one. Had there been a primary, if the primary wasn't blocked, I think the Harris-Biden ticket would have been third. I don't think they would have been at the top of the ticket. Because if you go across this country, Gonzo, if you go across this country, they weren't favored. And they knew they weren't favored. And this is why they circumvented democracy. And that we should have a problem with. This guy Kennedy, you don't have to agree with everything he says, but he hit some hell of a points down the stretch. He killed some points down the stretch, guys. And he comes from a family who showed that they love this country. Yes or no? You cannot say that for the Bidens, who just the other day, they finished the investigation in the Congress. It came back to say his family took a couple of $100 million from the Chinese. Right?
Will there be accountability for that?
Absolutely not.
The Kennedys love this country. They were rich before they ran. Let's say that again. Can we say that as a family? Rich before you run. You follow me? There is a problem with people who are rich before they run. Have y'all noticed this lately? If you're rich before you run, people are going to push back on you. Ask Ross Perot. Anybody remember that name?
Yeah.
Why is it broke-ass people have a better shot than people who are rich before they run?
You know the answer to that.
Because they've created this narrative about, wealth envy.
And they can be bought.
They can be bought. It's amazing when I hear about Barack Obama running for president with student loans and he wins. When I hear about Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, who was a 47-year guy who worked for the government, and all of these people, none of which were rich before they run. Jimmy Carter. But the people that are rich before they run get gigantic pushback. Not from the masses, but from the inner circle. Just because people are in your circle don't mean they're in your corner. And my concern is Kennedy's rich before he ran. Right? His daddy was rich before he ran. His uncle was rich before he ran. And what happened to them? Right? If you can't be bought or owned, your life's on the line, maybe? Huh?
Well, you know how the system works. There are a lot of people around. And if I can't influence you, if you come into office and you're already wealthy, then you're going to make decisions based on principles and the things that you ran on. And there's, nobody to stop you from doing that. You come in poor. I mean, I still don't understand. How can you come in poor, stay in office for 4 or 8 years, and you're worth double-digit millions? That can't happen without corruption.
Michelle Obama.
That cannot happen without corruption.
Listen to me. Michelle Obama, they say they went to the White House. She and Barack had debt, right? Student loans, yada, yada. And she gets on the stage last night, and she talks about... She talks about her mom had issue with people who took more than they needed. You got that from me?
Father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
They have $30 million worth of property. $30 million worth of property. She's always in $2,500 suits, $1,800 shoes. They got a house in Chicago, $1 million. Martha, Virginia, $7, $8, $9 million. Hawaii, millions of dollars. D.C., millions of dollars. That house in D.C., $7, $8 million. Martha, Virginia, $7, $8, $12 million. And you're telling us that your mama had a beef with people who took more than they needed.
So her mama have a beef with her right now? Is that what that means?
Your mama got a beef with people who take more than they need. and you know what? And I'm watching these broke-ass delegate Negroes and these poor-ass Caucasians standing on the floor cheering. Yay! Nobody needs more than they need. I don't know about y'all. I want more than I need. Because if I'm just getting what I need, I'm still broke.
Absolutely.
Who don't want more than that? Come on.
It's called the welfare system.
It's called the welfare system. It's called socialism.
Yeah.
Right? It's called a control mechanism.
Absolutely.
I ain't him. So it's amazing how these rich ass Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, 200 million, Joe Biden, a bunch of millions, stand up on the stage and talk to these idiots. That's what I'm calling them, idiots, and degrade and take shots at rich folk when they rich.
Right. Off a salary, what, $170,000?
You didn't come here in an Uber. You came in a limo. You didn't take the L train or the 47 bus to this bitch. You came in a town car with a driver. And it's amazing how these idiots who can't fill their tank up will stand and cheer for a rich person taking a shot at another rich person. And you can't fill your tank up in your 88 Beretta. How dare you be that stupid? No, it's just like, it's amazing when I'm watching rich people talk to poor people about rich people. And they think it's cool, like, yeah, Michelle, tell them they're taking more than they need, and her Gulfstream's waiting. And they got cheese boards on the Gulfstream. They got cheese boards. I fly on the Gulfstream before, wasn't twice, 13 times. They got a cheese board. You don't even know what a charcuterie is, Xantavius. She got a charcuterie board in the limo on the way to the Gulfstream. Please take the blueberries out. I'm allergic to those. But they don't know you. But they just amp your dumb ass up to stand and cheer against the other rich people who oftentimes done made their money the right way. We got to stop it, guys. We got to stop it, man. We cannot let our enemy pick our enemy. I ain't mad at nobody for getting it the right way, but I got a problem with people who got it on my back. So when I watch these people who didn't have no money last Wednesday talk about people who got their money the right way, I want them all to join their hands and come to the front of the stadium and kiss my ass. Thank you so much, everybody. Dave, I love you, man. You can follow Dave Griffin. Tell them how they can follow you, man. David Griffin. I'll put it on. You can
David
find
Griffin 924
924 on Instagram. David Griffin 924 on Instagram. How can they follow you?
Tamika Page on all platforms.
Tamika Page. How can they follow you, Gonzo?
The Cigar Guys.
The Cigar Guys. And follow Don Miller, The Don Miller Show. Just bring your asses. Bring your asses. I'll holler at you in a minute. Thank you so much, everybody. We love you so much. Bye-bye.